Paul Pogba in his time at United could not stake a claim as to being the best midfielder in the team. And I think that is my one thing that I have against him, that you could have maintained a level. I mean, you start the season well against Leeds and you have 4 assists in one game. Within the next 2 games, I think you get 2 more assists. You got 6 assists in the first 3 or 4 games.
It's 7, I think, in the first 3 games.
He ended the season with 9. He only added 2 assists. I mean, that for me says to me that you could have done so much. When you look at games where he's scoring the 2 headers against City for the comeback victory, look at those moments, you're like, why aren't there at least 10 other moments like that, you know? So for me, it's disappointing. The time that Paul Pogba signed, there was so much promise, especially initially with Mourinho and everything. It looked like we were building a team. We finished second, but I mean, when you look back at the entire work, the entire body of work, you can't be satisfied with that. You can't.
So Paul Pogba is the worst world record transfer signing probably since Denilson of Brazil.
When you factor in what the time he spent, or just generally.
When you consider the fact that of all the guys who clubs have paid the highest amount in football history at that time, and then when you consider what
Not per position, but just the highest.
Yes, the world record signing. So if we go from Zidane, and that record was then broken by Cristiano Ronaldo, which was broken by Gareth Bale, by Pogba, and then by Neymar. Neymar has not been great at PSG. He's not been transformational, but he's been very good to a point where a couple of seasons ago he looked like the best player in the world, as much as I had said. Zidane as well. Zidane is not recalled very correctly in the memories of most people. He was not very consistent at Real Madrid. The guy that you saw at the 2006 World Cup is not the guy who showed up for Real Madrid week in, week out.
Yeah.
But he was still Zidane, you know, and he still had moments. The greatest of which is that 2002 volley in the UCL final, and then Cristiano Ronaldo is Cristiano Ronaldo. That's the bar. So, and Gareth Bale as well, who's also leaving Real Madrid, not Tottenham and not Spurs Bale, but he was good enough and he showed up in big moments in finals. Paul Pogba did nothing comparable to those other guys. So if I am listing those guys who a world record fee has been paid for, he's at the bottom of that list. And it's surprising. And because of what you mentioned. When he was at Juve, you were talking about Ballon d'Or, and this is him in his early 20s, right? And so when he comes back to United, perhaps you're not thinking that he's going to win United the Champions League or he's going to win them the Premier League, but he's going, if United don't improve, he's going to get his. He's still going to look like exactly what you see from Bruno last season.
Be a Harry Kane. That we were lifting Jack, but I'm the best guy on the team.
Yeah, where you can say, man, that guy is trapped at United. Free. No one is calling for free Paul Pogba, you know, except for maybe when you saw him at France. Because, and that was the thing for me, that duality where when he shows up for the French national team, he, as he said himself, that he spoke a lot when he was with the French national team and away from United, that he was played in his right position. He often spoke about the fact that the coach knew what he was doing with him. He knew exactly what was expected of him. And as such, that's why he produced. Simple things, maybe down to he's playing with N'Golo Kante and everyone is calling for a defensive-minded midfielder next to Paul Pogba. Maybe you get the best of him in those situations. But also, when you mention that perhaps he's not the most prolific goal scorer, he has that in his tool bag though, because in one of the games in the Euros, I just forgot which one. He's in front of goal outside of the 18 area, and he goes for a shot and he misses if he's not saved.
I know what you're doing.
Same position, he adjusts and he scores a world, and it's like
for the camera. This is that celebration, right? Of that.
This guy is ridiculous. You know,
Switzerland, because they came back in that game.
It is against Switzerland.
They got
yes.
knocked out. Yeah.
And also when I then consider the player as well, just the attributes, left foot, right foot, for me the best passer in the world, but it just didn't come off. And season in, season out, even with the changing of the coaches, it just did not come off at United.
And speaking about passing, Jay, when you talk about the best passers in the league, right? You got Trent up there, you've got Kevin De Bruyne up there. But with Paul Pogba, it's more of a memory. It's not a week in, week out, he's playing passes every other game. I mean, when you look at the balls that he can play easily to Rashford and Martial over the top with either foot, perfectly weighted, you don't see them as often as you do when you're watching City, when you're watching Liverpool, because Trent and De Bruyne produce maybe about 5-6 a game. Pogba does 1 or 2, skip a few games, and then he does a few as well. So that as well is a grab for me, that perform at the level. But Jay, the N'Golo Kante argument, right? when he has shone with United, no, United haven't had a solid DM for like in forever. When he has shone and he's shown that he can hit that level without N'Golo Kante next to him, why then doesn't he maintain that level?
That must be on him. There's a lot that's going on there with the Paul Pogba, why it didn't work out with United. And I'm going to throw the question to you. Do you think it's more him or more the club? But there's enough talent. There's enough talent whereby he should be pulling off performances where you are still impressed, even if the team doesn't do well, as we say.